There you go. Hello boys and girls. Today I'll be explaining how stacks work. Let me tell you a Christmas story, a story about Santa Claus.
Ho ho ho.
Everybody knows Santa Claus has to go around the world to deliver presents. But how does he know where he is supposed to go? Okay. Santa has an address book of all the people in the world. Inside Santa's address book contains all the addresses of everyone in the world. So firstly, he has the continents page, which contains all continents in the world. So he will go to Asia first, but he needs to remember to go to Europe next. Therefore, at the countries of Asia page, he puts a note. Remember to go to Europe. So he goes to China first. Inside states of China, he needs to go back to the next country, India. So he puts a note. Remember to go to India. After finishing all states of China, he looks at the note above and sees, remember to go to India, page 10. So he removes the note and goes back to page 10. And he follows the next line. So you get the idea. But how does this relate to a stack?
I'll tell you how. So here are 3 registers. Each of them can only store a single address. They are used for different reasons. So here's a stack. Its application has its own. Now I'm going to show you how a stack looks during runtime. So in this example code, when we're about to run Go Asia, EIP, which represents the next instruction, is Go Europe. First, the argument high is pushed onto the stack, followed by the EIP. Then the EBP, which represents the reference to the stack, is pushed onto the stack. Lastly, the buffer for the variables are made. Here is another visual representation. When a function is called, its arguments is pushed onto the stack. Then the next instruction, EIP, is pushed onto the stack. Then what we call the function prolog begins. EBP, the reference to this portion of the stack, is pushed onto the stack. Next, ESP is moved to where EBP is. Space for the buffer is then made by moving ESP, which represents the top of the stack, down by the amount that the buffer requires.
But what is a stack overflow?
This is Bob, and he's been a very naughty boy this year.
No presents for you.
I'll show you, Santa. But he was determined to get the presents no matter what, so he devised an evil plan. While Santa is busy, Bob comes in and steals his book. Bob paints over the page with white paint and places a note to mislead Santa. After looking at the blank page, Santa realizes, oh, I must remember to go to Totally Legit house, and he does that. At the Totally Legit house, which is actually Bob's house, Santa arrives and delivers the presents.
In a real stack, all you have to do is replace the buffer and the saved EBP with a lot of A's or anything you want, and also the previous EIP with your own function address, which is Totally Legit House address. So the program will call the Totally Legit House function instead.
But what are some ways to prevent buffer overflow attacks? Canaries!
So canaries are words that the program puts into a stack and they'll check before running. So if during runtime buffer overflow is done and the canaries will be different, so it won't run.
Boundary checking.
So boundary checking is when the buffer overflows the boundary given to each function. So when this happens, the application is the same, not allowed to run.
Executable space protection.
So each part of the memory is given tags. To certain part of the memory, they are given tags that are not allowed for them to execute. So malicious shellcode on the stack cannot be run.
Random added space layout.
Opposite.
Oh my god. Seriously. Random added space layout.
Address. You say added. You say and I swear.
Okay. Random address space layouts.
So in this, as it's the same case with the executor space protection, certain space of the stack has malicious shellcode on it. So random address space randomizes the stack so that the attacker doesn't really know where the malicious shellcode is.
Deep packet inspection.
So in this example, network packets, they may contain malicious data that buffer overflows. The packet is checked for such data and stopped.
The end.